North Korea, or the DPRK, is a secretive nation occupying the northern half of the Korean peninsula, bordered by China, Russia, and separated from South Korea by the heavily fortified DMZ. Led by Kim Jong-un, the third ruler in a unique family dynasty, North Korea blends communist state control with a near-religious devotion to its leaders. The official ideology, Juche, preaches self-reliance, but in reality, it has led to isolation and hardship for ordinary citizens. To understand North Korea, we must look beyond the parades and propaganda to the daily struggles and quiet hopes of its people. In 2024, as tensions rise and alliances shift, we'll explore the realities of life inside one of the world's most closed societies. Before 1945, Korea was a single nation, stretching from the Yellow Sea in the west to the Sea of Japan in the east. Its people shared a common language, customs, and a deep sense of identity rooted in centuries of history. Bustling markets, tranquil villages, and ancient palaces stood as testaments to a unified culture that had weathered invasions and dynastic change. Families gathered for traditional festivals, and generations lived side by side, passing down stories, recipes, and rituals that defined what it meant to be Korean. The peninsula thrived as a vibrant crossroads of culture and tradition. But in 1945, everything changed. The end of World War II brought foreign armies to Korea's shores. The Soviets occupied the north while the Americans took control of the south. What was meant to be a temporary division along the 38th parallel soon hardened into a permanent split as two rival governments emerged, each claiming to represent the true Korea. The Korean War erupted in 1950, devastating the land and its people. When the fighting finally stopped, the peninsula was scarred by a heavily fortified border, the Demilitarized Zone, or DMZ. To this day, it remains one of the most tense and militarized borders in the world, a stark reminder of a war that never truly ended. Today, the contrast between North and South Korea is visible even from space. At night, South Korea glows with the lights of bustling cities like Seoul, a symbol of economic growth and technological progress. In stark contrast, North Korea is almost completely dark, its isolation and hardship illuminated only by a faint glow around Pyongyang. For millions of families, the division has meant decades of painful separation. Elderly parents and siblings clutch faded photographs, longing for reunions that may never come. Occasional, tightly controlled family meetings offer brief moments of joy, but for most, the border remains an unbreakable barrier. In the north, government propaganda paints the south as decadent and corrupt. Yet smuggled USB drives and DVDs reveal glimpses of a different world, one filled with music, fashion, and freedom. For many young North Koreans, these secret windows spark curiosity, hope, and a quiet yearning for change. Over the decades, the split has given rise to two societies with distinct cultures, values, and worldviews. In the South, modernity and tradition blend in vibrant cities, while the North clings to its own unique identity, shaped by decades of isolation and state control. For many in the North, forbidden glimpses of life beyond the DMZ inspire questions and dreams about what the future might hold, and whether the two Koreas might one day be reunited. Daily life in North Korea is dictated by the state, from assigned jobs to mandatory displays of loyalty. The Songbun system ranks citizens by family background, determining access to education, food, and opportunity. Children are indoctrinated early, joining youth organizations, and learning a history that glorifies the Kim family. Food insecurity is constant. Most rely on meager rations and black market trading to survive. Strict rules govern everything from hairstyles to public behavior, and regular self-criticism sessions enforce conformity. Surveillance is ever present, making independent thought risky. In this environment, survival means blending in and following the rules, at least on the surface. North Korea's government enforces loyalty through a vast network of informants and secret police. Neighbors spy on neighbors, and even children are taught to report on their families. All media is state-run, with no access to the global internet, only a censored intranet filled with propaganda. Seeking foreign information is harshly punished. Watching a South Korean drama can mean years in a labor camp. Public displays of loyalty are mandatory, but many lead double lives, outwardly devoted, inwardly questioning. The regime demands not just obedience, but control over thought itself. Beneath the surface, private doubts and whispered conversations persist. True freedom remains unimaginable for most, but the desire for it endures. In 2024, tensions on the Korean peninsula reached new heights as North Korea dramatically escalated its campaign of provocation against the South. In a bold and highly visible move, Pyongyang launched thousands of trash-filled balloons across the heavily fortified border, littering South Korean territory and sending a clear message of defiance. This unusual tactic was not just a nuisance, it was a calculated act of psychological warfare designed to unsettle the South and demonstrate North Korea's willingness to break with diplomatic norms in retaliation for what it called hostile acts from Seoul. After accusing the South of sending surveillance drones into its airspace, Kim Jong-un responded with a dramatic show of force. He ordered the destruction of key roads at the demilitarized zone, physically severing the last remaining links between North and South Korea. The explosion sent plumes of smoke into the air, symbolizing the collapse of even the most basic forms of cooperation and communication between the two nations. With both militaries now on high alert, the risk of miscalculation or accidental conflict soared. Armed standoffs became more frequent, and the world watched anxiously as the peninsula edged closer to open confrontation than it had in years. At the same time, North Korea was forging a new and dangerous alliance with Russia. In a move that stunned international observers, Pyongyang began supplying not only weapons but also military personnel to support Russia's war effort in Ukraine. In return, North Korea received much-needed fuel, food, and advanced military technology, deepening its dependence on Moscow and further isolating itself from the West. Russia's backing has given North Korea unprecedented protection on the world stage. Moscow has repeatedly used its veto power at the United Nations to block new sanctions and prevent international monitoring of North Korea's activities, effectively shielding Kim Jong-un's regime from global pressure and accountability. This growing partnership has emboldened Kim Jong-un, allowing him to showcase his military might with greater confidence. North Korea's nuclear program has accelerated, and efforts by the international community to contain it have become even more complicated and fraught with uncertainty. The emergence of a new axis between Pyongyang and Moscow now poses a direct challenge to the US-led international order in East Asia. Hopes for reform or denuclearization on the Korean peninsula have faded as the balance of power shifts and old alliances are tested like never before. As the sun sets over the divided peninsula, the fragile peace that has held for decades hangs by a thread, with the world left to wonder what the next chapter will bring. North Korea remains one of the world's most repressive and secretive states, where the government maintains its grip on power through a pervasive system of fear and control. Arbitrary arrests, torture, and public executions are not just rare occurrences, they are routine tools used by the regime to silence dissent and instill terror among the population. The threat of punishment hangs over every aspect of daily life, making even the smallest act of defiance a potentially fatal risk. Political prison camps, known as Kwanliso, are scattered across remote regions of the country. These camps hold tens of thousands of men, women, and even children in brutal, inhumane conditions. Entire families can be imprisoned for the alleged crimes of a single member, often without trial or any form of legal process. Prisoners endure forced labor, starvation, and torture, with little hope of release or contact with the outside world. Freedom of thought, expression, and association is virtually non-existent. Citizens are constantly monitored by informants and secret police, and even minor infractions, such as speaking critically of the government or listening to foreign radio, can result in years of forced labor or worse. The education system itself is designed to indoctrinate, not to encourage independent thinking. In 2024, the regime intensified punishments for any contact with the outside world. Families caught receiving money or information from relatives abroad are now routinely sentenced to years in labor camps. The government's paranoia about foreign influence has only grown, leading to even harsher crackdowns on those suspected of outside contact. Forced labor is not limited to adults. Children and students are regularly mobilized for state projects, from farming to construction, all without pay. These young people are denied a normal childhood, instead growing up under constant pressure to serve the state's needs above their own. The regime's ultimate goal is to create total dependence, physically, emotionally, and mentally, on the state and its leader. Propaganda is everywhere, shaping every thought and action, and mandatory rallies reinforce loyalty to the ruling Kim family. Ordinary people are forced to build the very monuments and weapons that symbolize and enforce their oppression. Their labor is used to glorify the regime and strengthen its military power, while their own needs are ignored. This is a system of modern-day slavery, maintained by fear, isolation, and the systematic denial of basic human rights. For millions of North Koreans, hope for freedom remains a distant dream. Chronic food shortages define life for millions in North Korea, worsened by economic mismanagement, sanctions, and natural disasters. The public distribution system has collapsed, leaving families to fend for themselves. Floods in 2024 destroyed crops, pushing many to the brink of starvation. The regime blames external enemies and diverts resources to its military, prioritizing weapons over welfare. Black markets, or Jangmadang, have become essential for survival, allowing people to trade food and goods outside state control. These markets offer a rare space for initiative and hope, but hunger remains a daily reality. For most, survival depends on resilience and resourcefulness in a system that has failed them. For some, the only escape from hardship is defection, a journey fraught with danger. Most flee north into China, risking death at the border and forced repatriation if caught. China treats defectors as illegal migrants, not refugees, sending many back to face torture or imprisonment. Border security has tightened, and successful escapes have plummeted. Only a fraction now reach South Korea. Those who make it face new challenges, trauma, discrimination, and the pain of leaving family behind. In 2024, reports of forced returns and harsh punishments highlight the risks defectors face. The path to freedom is narrower than ever, but for a determined few, the hope of a new life outweighs the dangers. Their courage is a testament to the human spirit. Yet for millions, escape remains an impossible dream. The world has responded to North Korea's abuses with sanctions and condemnation, but enforcement is undermined by smuggling and Russian support. In 2024, Russia's UN veto weakened oversight, prompting the US, Japan, and South Korea to form a new monitoring team. Human rights groups continue to document abuses, hoping to hold the regime accountable. Despite repression, cracks are appearing. Younger North Koreans exposed to outside culture are questioning the regime's narrative. Subtle shifts in loyalty and quiet acts of defiance suggest change may one day come from within. The hope for North Korea's future lies in its people, their resilience, their longing for freedom, and their small, persistent acts of courage. For now, the world watches and waits, hoping that one day, the darkness will lift.